Welcome into Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. And today we are discussing episode 7 of Band of Brothers, The Breaking Point. And with me, as always, is Heather L. How are
Hey
you
Rob,
today?
doing really good. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, want to welcome our audience.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here and being on this chat. This is one of my favorite episodes of Band of Brothers. I just want to greet some folks. Hail to Stark of Iron, SP4H, 2104 Dogface. Glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. This episode has a lot in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's from start to finish. It's great. Love
Yes.
this
Oh,
one.
yeah. It's fantastic. It's actually my favorite episode of Band of Brothers, just because there's so much in it and so much character development. Got a few more people that have joined us. Welcome, Don Lewis, Jedi Master 2022's Lost in Space and Classic Sci-Fi, Data of the Grid. Thank you guys for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Let's
hey to the chat.
yeah, yeah. And chat, feel free to share your thoughts on this episode. We like to share any comments or thoughts on this because we aren't experts. We just love the show, love the book, and want to talk about it because it's such a great show. And hey, you know what? It's one of those shows that you can watch over and over again. At least I think so. I try and watch it about once a year. So
Yeah.
it's that good. High quality stuff. So um, we're going to get into it. We're going to give a summary of the episode. We're going to talk a little bit about the Battle of the Bulge, and we're going to take you into the episode. We're also going to talk about the attack on Foy. Now, I've heard some things about this is the episode where Spears makes his run. We'll talk about what's in the book and what's on that, but there have been various things about that, whether or not it was completely true, whatever, some inconsistencies about it. I don't know. All I know is what I've read in the book and what I saw on the show. But if anybody has any insight on that or any other insights to this aspect of Band of Brothers, feel free to share and let us know. We'd love to hear the insights, and we're not historians or military experts by any means, but we'd love to hear from anybody else who has some insights into this. And then this episode it's probably one of the longer episodes of the show, but I think it has probably the tightest filmography. I think the cinematography is excellent. I think from just a technical standpoint, it's one of the best technical episodes as well. What do you think?
Oh yeah, God, the filming of this is amazing. Like all the explosions in the trees, I mean, just all the special effects. They did such a great job with it. The dialogue is incredible. I know we've talked um, that kind of modern shows. There's a ton of dialogue. There's a ton of dialogue in this, but it all serves a purpose. It's either telling you something that you need to know, or it's developing the character who's speaking or telling you about the characters, other characters in the show. So it all serves a purpose and it's entertaining. Like you can really picture these guys just kind of sitting around shooting the shit, and then intermittently in between all these horrifying explosions when there's a break, you see them developing a bond. So I'm just really well done every aspect of it.
Yes, and I feel that it is narrated by Lipton's character, played by Donnie Wahlberg. I love the narration
Mhm.
because it really lets you get into the minds of the men and really sets the tone and the pace for this. I think he also helps explain the actions and the transition between each scene uh, with the narration. It helps a whole lot. And I want to also welcome Lombardi 1969 and Swift minus one. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Uh, please leave comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you guys. So, Heather, do you want to go over the summary? Lot to discuss here, but what can you summarize that episode for
Yeah,
us?
sure. I will read the brief episode summary. So when we start out, the company is still in Bastogne and is succumbing to the cold, harsh winter. And it looks even colder than it was in the last episode, but at least it looks like they've gotten some winter coats. They are due to take the town of Foy, kind of our American pronunciation. Um, I've heard it pronounced like Fa or Foie, something, I
Mhm.
don't know, more French or Belgian sounding, but yeah, we'll pronounce it Foy since we're all American.
Yeah.
And the major problem is Lieutenant Norman Dyke. He's never around, he's incompetent, and he never knows what to do. With no real commander to lead them, First Sergeant Lipton must do everything he can to keep the company strong. But what will they do when the fateful day comes that Dyke leads them into battle?
Absolutely. So, the other historical aspect that we want to cover on this, just to kind of give you guys an idea, this is during the Battle of the Bulge, and if we want to describe the Battle of the Bulge, because I felt like we started to describe it a little bit last week, and you get the transition in between these episodes where Patton comes in, but the
Yeah.
Battle of the Bulge. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, or you got it from here? Or you want?
Oh, either way, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's a major German offensive campaign. It started out in World War II. It took place from December 16th to January 25th. So we're right in the middle of that. The last episode led us to almost the beginning of the new year. And this is the beginning of the new year for this episode. So we're right in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge. It was launched in the Ardennes region of Belgium, Luxembourg, and France, aiming to split the Allied forces and capture the vital port of Antwerp. The battle is often referred to as the greatest American battle of the war. And Mark, the mustache man, because we can't say it on YouTube, last major offensive on the Western Front. Over 1 million soldiers from both the Allied and German forces participated, making it one of the largest battles fought by the U.S. Army during the war. Ultimately, the Allies successfully repelled the German forces, leading to significant losses for Germany and contributing to the eventual Allied victory in Europe. So yeah, it's a very key point. And in the last episode, we see Easy Company holding Bastogne, which Bastogne was a huge crossroad that the Germans were trying to take, because if they took Bastogne, they could easily maneuver into other areas and go on down the American line. That's why it was so important to hold that. And in this instance, they're the Americans going on the offensive, and now we see towards the end of the episode they're going to take the town of, we're calling it Foy, as Heather mentioned. It's pronounced something else in French and German, or French and Belgian, but that's kind of part of this strategic positioning of Battle of the Bulge. There's other stuff going on around them, but we're following Easy Company in this section of Battle of the Bulge. And folks, if you got any other information about Battle of the Bulge, or you have some historical knowledge you want to share, feel free to share it in the chat. We'd love to hear it, because we eat this stuff up. We love this. Part of the reason why we love the show is we love history and we love the show. So before
And
we get into some of the slides and into the actual episode, Heather, do you want to talk about some of the key characters of that episode?
yeah, I was gonna say one more thing too about the
Yeah,
the
sure.
battle. The bulge was where because you have the lines kind of stabilized,
Mhm.
they're pushed a little bit west of the German border. And the Germans, when they pushed into Bastogne, it kind of created a bulge in the line. So in this episode, they're trying to push the Germans back, push the bulge back to flat, back to where they came from. So
Mhm.
and then they end up, starting to push them all the way back towards the German border in the next subsequent towns that they take. So, yeah, the characters. This episode is we see through the eyes of, at the time, Sergeant Lipton, and this to me was the perfect episode to see through his eyes. I mean, just like we had in the last one, Doc Rowe. I feel like every episode they've really made the perfect choice of which character should be the focal point. He's been, we've seen a lot of him throughout the episodes and his leadership style, and just what he's just been one of my favorites through this whole series. But the focus on him this time is excellent. We also have Lieutenant Dyke, who we kind of see as the opposite of Lipton in pretty much every way. Hubler in a tragedy. Also, we get a lot of Wild Bill and Joe Toy, who are also great characters, and I love the way we kind of see how deep their friendship has become throughout this episode. Buck Compton is another great leader in the company. We get to see him a lot. Spears, obviously, and his legendary acts. Also, Malarkey, another long timer. Luz, another long timer with some more of his great impersonations. And Shifty Powers, who is the crack shot, and another one who we've come to know over all these episodes. So That's another one of the great things about this episode. So we've kind of these are the guys who've been there a long time, and we've gotten to know them in kind of bits and pieces, and we've really seen the character growth and how their bond with each other has developed. So really great that we get to focus on all of them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love how we get to see their personalities and get to know the guys all the way up into this. And some of the guys are actually exiting the show at this point in this episode too,
Mhm.
which makes it even more intense and a little bit sad in a way too.
This
Um,
episode is always so emotional for me. I
mhm.
mean, it gets me choked up every single time I watch it, and I know what's gonna happen, but I always get emotional when I watch this one.
Yeah, yeah, emotions are high, and I think that's what makes it so good. uh,
Yeah.
as well. So let's bring the slides up, and so I love this. This is one of the first scenes here, and we see the company, and the cool thing about this is I love this shot because they're trying to get the maps and trying to orient where they were. So in the book, it describes how heavy the snow was. So the snow was 1 to 2 feet deep at that point. It was heavy snowstorms. They had a hard time seeing 10 feet in front of them at times. They had hard times finding foxholes, finding positions. Sometimes, like we saw in the last episode, you would stumble on the enemy encampment because you're too far off course. They really had to use compass readings to really tell where they were at this point. So you needed a lot of orientation. And this is what we see here. We see Garnier trying to look at the map, and it's right on Malarkey's back here. And we see Buck Compton and Lipton uh, right behind him. I think that's a great shot.
Yeah, that's a really great shot right in the opening. I love that. And yeah, it's colder. I was happy to see that they have the big winter coats on at least this time. They got the supply drop.
Hmm.
But God, it just looks miserable cold, even worse than the last episode. And the snow, with the snow on everything, it would be so hard to figure out where the heck you were going.
Oh yeah, and I will say this that the intensity of the men's comments at the beginning of the
Oh
episode is
God, yes.
a lot more. I mean, because they
Yep.
talk about what it's like to get shelled. I mean, it's crazy.
That
Um,
was one of the other things too that's just so emotional about this episode when they talk about the one guy talks about that there's just that death everywhere, right? Like you're seeing dead American soldiers, dead German soldiers, dead civilians, dead animals just everywhere. And that I think is what too I don't know if you get hardened up to it or it starts to get to you. Um all at the same time. And then the other guy talked about, he was just almost breaking down where he said, you don't have the time when your friends go down, you can't sometimes go help them or mourn them when they die because you're in the middle of action and yeah, it's an emotional beginning to the show.
Yeah. So 2104 Dogface gives some other insight here. He says, so one other thing to keep in mind for airborne units in the Bulge, they pulled in all the independent units. They took heavy losses. A company 500, 551st came out with only 7 troopers by the end of the fighting. Yeah, I read that, and
Wow.
it showed in the book. The book also said that they were reinforced by a bazooka squad and some other squads that came up to reinforce Easy and a couple others. But it's just it's crazy. Um, and also want to say hi to Agent Pepsi One. She just joined us, so
Hey,
welcome,
get your
Agent
Pepsi
Pepsi
one.
One. Glad you're here. Um,
Yeah, I hate the cold weather too.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, and fitting that we're doing this episode, and where I'm at in the DFW area, we've got a cold front that just has sat on us for the last couple of days and
Mm,
dropped us from the 80s to the 40s. But this week it's supposed to break off, and we're supposed to be back in the 80s. It's Texas weather. I mean, my
yeah.
goodness, it's
Oh,
crazy.
spring. Spring is like that.
Yep. All right. So we open up with them orienting, and I like the camaraderie here. I love that it has a lighthearted feel at first,
Mhm.
uh, but then Hubler, and Hubler and some of the men see this German on horseback. Um, Hubler gets a couple of shots on him and kills him. I think in the book he didn't actually die. They took him prisoner, but it's interesting right here. And we got a couple of pictures. So, what did Hubler really want? What did he long for all through this
Yeah,
series in episode 3?
been wanting a Luger.
Yep. And so there he goes. He's got his
Luger.
Luger.
And this is gave, like, so much foreboding in all these scenes where he's shown it off, bragging to the guys because he's so careless with it, right? Like, spinning
Yeah.
it around, like, "Oh my god, is that unloaded?" Like, I hope he's not, like, twirling around a loaded gun like that, and yeah, and then no holster, like, just sticking it in your clothes. I was just, kind of a sense of dread right away when he's showing this off.
Yeah, I as a guy, even with the souvenir, I probably would have taken out all the ammo and put the ammo somewhere else. And so if I'm putting an unloaded gun in a non-holster area,
Right.
particularly in my pants, I wouldn't want something loaded.
Yeah,
Not
if
that
it's
there's not another thing
loaded,
well, we
like
won't go there, but
if it's loaded, like, please take the holster too. I don't
yes.
know what he was thinking. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And so he's bragging about it. 2104 dog face. Well, the show Luger, but
Well, that's even worse. If that's the case, oh
oh
my
my gosh,
god, it's
really?
not even worth it. Like, why even
Oh my goodness. So it's not a real Luger. So
Oh,
2104 dog face says, well, the show showed a Luger, but it was really a crappy Belgian pistol. Oh,
oh,
that's even
no.
worse.
It's
Oh,
not even worth it then. Oh my god, that's so
yeah.
awful. Jeez.
Yeah. So he'd been bragging about it, talking about it, and then all of a sudden a gun goes off. And here's him happy with the Luger. But the gun goes off, and here's Shifty Powers, Lipton, and a couple others were digging on a new foxhole. Who's helping Shifty with a foxhole. I like how Shifty's got the camo up there. I think that's pretty cool. But
Yeah,
they thought it was shots being fired across the line, and it turns
yeah,
out, unfortunately, Hubler shot himself. Malarkey was in there with them. Um, So, yeah, it's just awful. He apparently hit a major artery,
yeah,
and
that's
here's a major artery in your leg. If you hit it and you bleed out, you're gone.
yeah, he bled out very quickly,
Yeah,
because they didn't know, and I don't think they could tell, right, because he had the baggy clothes or thick winter clothes on, and I'm sure that absorbed the blood. It just ugh. Oh,
yeah, which
captured pistols were big deals, especially to trade or sell while on leave on the black market. Okay.
mhm,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly, Agent Pepsi One. One would think that infantry would know better than to play around with a chambered weapon with the safety off. Absolutely. Or just sticking it in your clothes with the safety off. And I don't know that kind of gun. If it was easier, if it could have gotten moved easily when he shoved it in his pants or, how sensitive the trigger is. But good Lord, that's just,
it's crazy. I know I had so back in the '80s when kids played with cap guns, and I had a Luger cap gun,
oh,
and
really?
yeah, oh yeah, back then before we put any orange things on it,
Oh, yeah,
it was
those
like
are
it was a
nice.
cool little pistol. Now it had a big like trigger thing, and it had you load your long caps in the
Yeah.
back, but it was still pretty cool to play guns with
Oh,
it.
that's pretty funny.
But
Yeah, I just had a Western, a cowboy, like, revolver where you could stick the roll of caps, like, inside, and
yeah,
that was pretty cool, but a Luger, I never saw one, a cap gun like that.
yeah,
Pretty
it was
interesting.
cool. It was cool, a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Um, Agent Pepsi One's giving us some insight. Once you remember that ammunition weighs even a 30 cal machine gun fire in 10 seconds is about 7 pounds of ammunition. Oh yeah. And then SP4H says accidental discharges aren't actually all that accidental.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was just careless. Oh, yeah, I'm sure Luger's fetch big money today, especially
Oh
from
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, they Lugers probably do fetch quite a bit of money today. I wouldn't be surprised. And at the end of this Band of Brothers, we'll talk about a Luger that Captain Winters gets, but that's for another show. Anyway, so you have this awful thing happen with Hubler, and in the book it talks about they got him to the aid station and he died in the aid station or on the way. So it's just really, really, really sad and tragic way for him to go. And then because Dyke's nowhere to be found, Lipton reports it to Winters, and Winters is sitting there going, "Why am I not hearing this from Dyke?" I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, right, because Dyke normally should have been the one to come to him and say that, and it's just, we hear through this whole episode, "Where's Dyke? Where's Dyke?" So, it was kind of funny when Winters says, "Where's Dyke?" Um, yeah, I do like to, Lipton's all his concern and care for the men you see in these scenes, and just the common sense too of, the men are kind of all sitting around bad mouthing Dyke, and he just stops them and, says, "Don't do that," because not that he's concerned for Dyke, but that he doesn't want the confidence and the morale of all the other men lowered, in addition to all that needs to be done in combat. He just doesn't want that, spreading around and lowering morale. I thought that was interesting too in some of these conversations.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the other thing. Let's talk a little bit about Dyke real quick as we get into this. So, my understanding is it was kind of a political appointment to put him in charge of Easy Company. The problem is he didn't have the combat experience to really lead the company, and that showed. Um, uh, you know, I couldn't imagine all the crap they talked about him, but also I think that he wasn't prepared. He didn't know what he was doing at the time. But apparently later on after this in Korea and another war, he got his crap together and turned out to be okay as an officer. But this episode, he just rose and really didn't command the man. And part of that could have been, you know, he didn't know what to do. He wasn't as familiar with the men. But he should have probably been there and a little bit closer to them. I think that's what
Yeah,
the issue
he
here.
doesn't seem to have like the right personality for this. And I do think, like, um, they should talked about that behind his back. Yeah, I'm sure they did. He reminds me, I mean, kind of the boss in, Office Space, and
Uh-huh.
kind of like, everyone's had bosses like this where they don't really give a shit, they just totally absent, and they'll come up
Yeah.
and pretend to be interested in what you're doing, but really they don't, and that it just gets exacerbated in a combat situation when you have a bad leader, but, not everyone is capable of being a good leader. Um Not everyone is capable of doing, things in combat like this. I mean, some people just don't have the mental makeup to do stuff like this. And I think also he didn't seem like he had the experience either. Like people said he can't, people at division just were like, "Oh, you'll get some combat spirit experience and then you'll move up the line." And so he hadn't gone through what any of them had gone through up to this point and just was not qualified in addition to his, personality that was bad.
Yeah, 2104 Dogface says Joe Machota did cover Dyke on his podcast, gave lots of info on his background and training. So if you're interested in more about Dyke, go find his podcast on that. Um, yeah, thank you for sharing that. The other thing is that they were trying to find a replacement, but Buck Compton probably would have been the right choice, but Buck was leading a patrol, so you needed a lieutenant with some competency to lead patrols. So that was hard to do. And then they had a couple of other lieutenants that they could possibly get rid of and send back to the states. So there was a request to send somebody from E Company back to the states to do a tour to talk about them holding Bastogne because they got very famous for doing that. And Nixon was chosen. Well, Nixon didn't want to go, so it was up to them to choose a replacement for him. And There were a couple others that they were thinking about trying to figure out how he rearranged his leadership to really help the men, and Peacock was chosen. And
Yeah.
do you remember what they said about Peacock? Do you want to talk about that?
I don't remember what they said about him. I remember them not I don't know if he was the one who yelled or was the one who couldn't, figure out the map, but it was hilarious afterwards when they're all congratulating him and they're all like, "Yeah, get out of here, go home," and it was almost like a veiled they really mean, "Get out of here," even though they're saying it in like a congratulatory way. I thought that was hilarious. Another thing that was funny, when Winters was talking to Nix about Dyke, and he says, "Oh, yeah, he's just another one of those rich, arrogant jerks from Yale." Because Nix is rich from Yale. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, giving giving a little bit to Nix there. That was really funny. And then, God, what else?
Well, you had
Oh,
the other one that was acting like he was in a war movie.
yeah, yelling at everyone, thinking he's like, you know and, I don't know, he's just like, "God, get out of here," yelling his head off
Yeah.
at everyone, I'm sure. That was yeah, those were great, so, good stuff there. Also, you remember, I think it was Lipton, and he's sitting there with Bill and Malarkey, and he's, talking about how hard it would be to lead these guys. Like, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
like the toughest, most dedicated sons of bitches around," and they're all like, "Yeah," they kinda uses it as a pep talk for them. I thought that was great too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So a little bit more on Peacock. The reason why Peacock would have been second chosen anyway in that lottery, but the other thing is that yeah, you're right. Peacock had a hard time orienting himself and getting his men positioned,
Right.
and so he was one of those guys that tried really hard, but just was difficult to deal with. 2104 Dogface says Shames was a jerk. Yeah, that's the guy that was always yelling at people and acting like he was the big shot of the army. So, and in a war movie. So it's interesting. Uh, and then Dyke had so they couldn't really replace Dyke, so they had to deal with them. And Dyke has this odd conversation with Lipton, which we kind of alluded to, but I thought it was weird. He gets into talking to him about his dad and about where he's from and all this other stuff. And it's like Lipton's telling him about himself, which is he's like, hey, wow, actually, it's good to have, a conversation. You're actually building a relationship here. And then Dyke's like, do you miss it? And he's like, what? After he just talked about his dad, he's like, do you miss it? And he's like, miss what, sir? Huntington.
Right.
He's just,
Yeah. The guy's just clueless. He's just odd, and it just that's why it reminded me of the guy from Office Space. It's like he has a list of set, "Oh, I'm gonna ask these questions," but he doesn't really listen to the answer. He doesn't really care what the response is. He's just kinda going through, "Here's what I'm gonna ask," and yeah, he's a very odd guy, and I love Donnie Wahlberg, does a great job in that scene, like, the expressions on his face when Dyke's just asking him all these questions, he's just looking like, "Huh?" 'Cause they don't really make sense to follow the responses that he's giving.
yeah. And here's some of the guys. So they buck, and then there's the guy that was yelling, and then there's Peacock here, and the men are congratulating him. Uh,
So 2104 Dogface says he was hated by his men in 3rd Platoon for what some considered war crimes, and Winters didn't trust him. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about this lieutenant, or are you talking about Dyke? I'm assuming Dyke, but possibly someone else. So just wanted to. Is it
yeah, yeah.
Shames?
Clarify
Shames?
this. Yeah,
Oh, Shames. Okay.
James. Yeah,
Okay.
James. I think James is played by this guy right here. That's him.
Hmm.
James. That's James. Yeah, he's the one that is third platoon. But yeah, it's just I thought that was so interesting. And then so they were stuck with Dyke. They could send Peacock home, and then
Yeah, that was
uh,
funny too when they like when as soon as he comes up, right, and like Nyx is sleeping again, I think twice. Like I feel like every time we come upon Nyx in a scene, he's sleeping. He's like sleeping in the foxhole or sleeping back at Division. And so and Winters, oh my god, he's shaving again in the ice cold. It's just like all these little moments just kind of reinforce all the character traits of these guys. I just love how they do it
Yeah.
without saying a whole lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was at this point. It was before the showing because you got Muck and Pinkala here, but I did like this scene where they're getting their food and they're showing a replace. He's actually showing the replacement, and they're talking about all the guys and where they've been hit. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that was cute too. I like
yeah,
that.
and
That was
he's
really
it,
fun.
Lipton got hit and in his nethers
Yeah,
almost.
too. Yeah.
How are those? They're fine, Bill.
And then we got Buck Compton going around
Yeah, Popeye.
after the accident, and he's just
Yeah,
telling him, "Be careful, don't do anything stupid." Just
yeah,
after Hubler shot himself.
yeah. And they were talking about it didn't have a whole lot of stuff, but like the tradition of people getting shot in the butt,
Yes,
which
it's an Easy Company
yeah,
tradition.
Popeye got shot in the butt here, Buck Compton got shot in the butt here. So
Yeah, that was
um,
great. One more funny thing, I thought, when they're picking a guy to send home and Colonel Sink is talking to Winters, and, Colonel Sink says, "We gotta keep the morale up for folks back home." Oh, no, it was when they're filming. They're actually filming all the guys, and Winters says, "Why?" And Sink just says, "Damned if I know."
yeah.
That was so funny.
Well, and then the other thing that they don't really show here, they show him coming back, but there's Joe Toy. So what had happened was Toy had gotten hit like in the hand earlier. The guy's gotten hit like everywhere he's going,
Yes.
unfortunately. And he came back and Winters is like talking to him. It's like, you don't need to be back with the man. You could stay back there and heal. He's like, no, I want to be with the man. And then they interview him about Patton, remember? And Patton rescuing them. He's like, we didn't need Patton to rescue us, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah, that was great. I wrote down Joe Toy for this episode. One tough mother effer because he's just yeah, he gets hit, he comes back, like, escapes, from the aid stations and hospitals, and yeah.
Oh, wow. So Shames was the last easy company officer to pass away in 2021. But even after the war, there was hate for him by his men. Compton almost knocked him out in an air show.
Wow.
Interesting. I would have liked to see that. That would have been interesting. So,
Yeah, FKHC 2005 says, "Will you be doing the Pacific and Masters of the Air next?" We're talking about it. We're trying to decide, but I think one of those might be good. We're still
yeah.
kinda in discussion.
Yeah, we're still figuring it out. So we'll let you know. We'll let you know. We've got a couple episodes of this left, and then we've got a wrap up show where I'm going to go to the actual sites where I'll bring pictures and talk about it. We'll wrap up the show with that. But yeah, we'll look at Masters of the Air in the Pacific. Absolutely. So yeah, you got all these, and then you have this interesting scene with Spears where it's reintroducing Spears and his mistake that we saw in the last couple episodes, where he talks to Percani and Christensen and Webb, and it's an interesting scene where he comes upon them, setting up their foxhole and setting up everything, and he's basically giving them good advice. Hey, reinforce this, reinforce that. And they're like, well, Dyke said we don't need to do that. And he doesn't want to go against Dyke. And
Right. He just kinda looks the look on his face, though, too, I just love all these actors. He's like, "Oh, okay." Then,
yeah,
the walking away, "Do you want a cigarette?" That was
yes,
just
yes,
fantastic, and
his
they've
legend.
they've done such a great job, too, of kinda putting him just in a few key moments in the show because he is in D Company, and just having the guys talk about sort of all the stories and legends that built up around him, and whether that really was to that extent or they're doing it for the show, it was placed perfectly in the show for how they're bringing him back into this episode.
Yeah,
Really
the book tells it just like it is in the show.
okay.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's just like, man, I'm reading word for word.
I mean, because
Uh,
what we see of him, he's, like, ice cold, but, like, brave, kinda bordering on crazy, um, and yeah, it's kind of it is, like, things that are based in truth, but exaggerated, just so that you get really this build up around his character, that's so good.
yeah, and Michael Fassbender is playing Christensen here, so that's a familiar, famous face
Mhm.
on here. But it is funny how you see some of these guys that were just starting their careers that are in this that are now bigger actors. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's
Um,
there's so many in this show that give, brief sometimes just 1 episode or brief appearances.
So Agent Pepsi One shared a funny story, and it was too fun not to share. So she said that she was in the Air Force, and she said, "My NCOIC, who found me snoozing underneath an Apache I had been working on for 14 or 15 hours straight, she fell asleep while taking a break, and she got chewed out good."
Nice.
Yeah, no
No,
grudges,
not
no
the
grudges. She would want to apologize to the fourth and fifth grade teachers. She was a handful. Uh-oh.
Oh, wow. See, it's karma, Agent Pepsi One. That's why you're dealing with all these children's
Oh,
now.
sorry, she was Army. Army, she was a
Alright.
15Y. Sorry. She was in the Army, not the Air Force. Army. So, thank you for your service, Agent Pepsi One.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to everybody who served, who's in the chat. Um, so what's going on is we're going back. So they moved around a little bit, and now we're moving back to their main foxholes over by Foy, and we're going to get ready to talk a little bit about the Battle of Foy as we get into this. But they're moving back to their main foxholes, and it's overlooking the town of Foy here, coming up. And I thought you had another couple of comedy lines where they go back to the foxholes where another unit had been, and apparently, the other company had spent a lot of time in the foxholes, and I thought it was pretty funny. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, they left him some, not so nice,
yeah,
uh,
presence there.
presents there. That was not good. But I think so they were out clearing the woods, right? Like,
Yeah,
left and right,
yeah,
clearing the woods before they push forward into the town.
yes. And so I don't have all the slides here in order, but then
Oh
they
god.
get things set up, and
Oh,
then gosh, and
it's
then
so gruesome. I
yeah,
don't know how he, like, like, if I set up and saw that, I would just pass out. Like, that would be the end of me, or I'd freak out. I mean, this guy is just and I don't know how he didn't bleed out. Like, did the way it exploded, like, sear could it have seared, like, the veins and arteries closed? Like, it just seems like he would have bled out, just like Hubler got shot. I mean, that's completely cut. Just wondering how I mean, I don't know. I know nothing about medicine either, so I don't know how it's possible that he was able to kind of not bleed out from that.
yeah. I mean, it's awful. I think the
Gruesome.
cold conditions helped. But I'm not an expert either in this, so I can't pretend to know. Um, I would just think that it was a pretty clean break, and they caught it in time to be able to patch him up. But what had happened, it describes in the book, you had shelling, and then the Germans would stop. And the reason why they would stop is they wanted to see the guys come out of the foxhole to clear their men, and then they would
Mhm.
attack again. And so, it's so awful that Toy gets hit, and you see the friendship between Garnier and Toy. He goes out to get him, and it's just the most
Yeah.
gruesome scene. And he's like, Toy's like, I got to get my helmet. I got to get this. I got to get that. And he's like, No, I got you. I got you. And he's pulling him back. And technically, you're supposed to stay in your foxholes till everything's done. But Garnier just rushed out to him, and he's pulling him. And then, gosh, 2104 Dogface gives us some insight. The one good thing is cold weather. It slows the blood flow. Plus, he got medical care rather quickly. So the medics were there on him pretty quick, but he gets hit, and then Garnier gets hit as well, helping Toy, and that was just as gruesome. Now I don't have a picture of that.
Wow.
That That one was
Yeah.
just as gruesome, if not worse.
And
Uh,
there was no way that Bill was gonna stay in the foxhole. When he hears Joe yelling and
yeah,
realizes it's him, I mean, he's getting up and going. There those guys are so close. There's just no way that he's staying
yeah,
in the foxhole. But, I mean, to me, like, the foxholes, I know it protects you from all the shrapnel and, like, the exploding tree pieces because you're down and covered, but the shells when the shells hit the foxholes, oh my god, it's I mean, that was another thing we saw. It would just be terrifying because you don't know, if you're even safe in the foxhole. That whole thing, this whole scene is really terrifying.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and that I just don't know how he survived that. The leg, just
yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's just it's awful. And then, they both get hit. They both got medical attention right away. And 2104 Dogface, who knows Wild Bill, basically he said that the scene was pretty spot on for Bill, including Bill's leg shacking. Yeah, that's just was gruesome. And it
Well,
was
and
all
then it was funny too, like, Joe Toy says, "What does a guy gotta do to get killed around here?" And and then, Bill was like, "Hey, I told you I'd beat you back to the States," when they're taking
yes.
him off on the
Yeah,
stretcher. I
because they
mean,
took him first because his was
yeah,
worse
those
damage, and then
those 2 are just awesome. I mean, they're just, yeah, it's, I tough and funny and just love to see their bond. They were so great in this.
oh yeah, it was awesome. And then I think Bill tells Lip, he's like, "Well, they got old Garnier this time." So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh,
but
man,
yeah.
drinking and listening to Bill tell the story, I bet that was great.
Oh yeah,
That
I
must
would
have
have
been
loved to have been
amazing.
there. Oh my gosh, that would have been incredible to hear these guys speak about some of these. I mean, just the horrors of Bastogne alone, and just their experience up until this point would have been some of the most interesting stories.
And they're
Um,
toasting to Bill's leg. That's pretty funny.
really?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Toasting to Bill's leg. That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's pretty dang funny.
But I don't know. I don't know how long Joe Toy lived after this. I think he might have died in the '90s, but I'm not sure. But um, it's just heartbreaking. And then they get in the clear, and the other person that has trouble with this is Buck Compton. Um,
Mm.
he basically has PTSD seeing both his friends hurt, and I think that was played well in the show as well. I mean, my goodness, he takes off his helmet and just is like, we'll see it here. Hang on, I've got it.
Yeah. That
You know,
actor is just he
Neil,
plays
yeah,
his
yeah,
yeah,
he's a great
great.
actor. Yeah,
And, yeah, you could tell I mean, he's starting to fray back,
mhm,
this was a few episodes ago, you can see things kinda start getting to him. But these scenes are just heartbreaking when he sees his 2 closest friends like that. That's just like the last straw. And the scenes of him back at the aid station are also heartbreaking when Malarkey comes to read to him and, he just doesn't even want to hear the letter, doesn't say anything, just kind of, pushes it away.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it would be so difficult. I don't know how you get through all this. Tradition.
This
That's
is
funny.
Lady Hinkle. So we talked about Hinkle last one. Have you seen Hinkle? Hinkle?
That's funny.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Well,
Wow, that's
yeah.
great.
So we lose three of our key guys right here: Toy, Garnier, and we lose Buck Compton, and then we have another set of shelling not long after this, and this is where Muck and Pinkala, who we've seen bits and pieces of them, especially in the episode in the part of the episode where they're showing the mess hall with the other guys, and they're trying to get Luz to come back to his foxhole because he had gone out. He's the radio man, so he's trying to get things organized. And he's trying to make it their foxhole, and boom.
Yeah,
So there's Muck and Pinkala,
uh,
and then
That
It-
too was absolutely terrifying,
oh
right?
yeah.
When Luz, the way they did the camera work on that, where
Oh yeah.
it's like you're Luz and you're crawling toward the foxhole and all these shells are going off,
Hmm.
and these guys are like, come on," and then you see them just explode, and that just gets totally lit up. It's just and then the camera turns to Luz's face where he's just like, "Ah," like, that would be another moment where I mean, it's bad when Dyke freezes in combat. I mean, the fact that Luz was able to function as, like, the spot that you're crawling towards, trying to get to, and then it just gets obliterated like that. I mean, ugh, you think you're crawling to safety, and it's just, there's just nothing safe. That was
Yeah. I
that was
mean, it was
that was
just
brutal.
yeah.
Absolutely brutal there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the filming of that was incredible. It really gave you the feeling of being in it. Um, and then when Luz is then in the foxhole with Lipton and that dud hits there and they just sit there and look at it, you're like, "Oh my god."
Boom.
That I
Right
mean,
there.
that's another thing that would mess with your mind and you see Luz light up the smoke and Lipton just takes it. He never smoked before, but he just starts in that moment because it just like, oh my god. Just,
Yeah.
like, looking at that, you're just sitting there looking at it, oh my god.
Yeah.
I
The book described Garnier and Toy exactly as it's played out there. I'm trying to find uh, that where it talks about Muck and Pinkala here, because basically the sad thing is like they were obliterated. Like there was barely
yeah.
anything to find. I mean, it
Oh,
literally.
yeah, it didn't look like there could have been anything left of them. I mean, that was a direct hit on their foxhole.
Yeah,
It looked like the whole area just got completely wiped out.
yeah. I mean, it just yeah. I can't find it on here anyway. But yeah, it talked about finding bits and pieces of the sleeping bag and maybe just little bits of a person, but they've
Mm.
been wiped out. But yeah, and Lupton, Lipton a cigarette for the first time. Don't you even
Yeah.
smoke? I don't.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. And then we get another scene where Dyke tells Lipton like, "Oh, you take care of things here. I'm gonna go talk to Regiment." It's like the third time I think in the episode. Like every time after the shelling, and he's just like, "Oh, you've got it under control here. I gotta go talk to someone else. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go get help."
yeah,
God.
it was just crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see, 24 and 04 to going to see George Luz Jr. In May doing a talk about his dad. That's
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, I've seen George Luz Jr. on several different YouTube channels talking about his dad, talking about his time with the guys. So he's got some interesting stories to share.
Yeah,
Um,
that's neat.
but yeah, I mean, he's just, it's just like Dyke, you're charging your men, and yet I'm going to go back to regiment. you know,
Yeah, every time something happens, he's like, "Well, you take care of things here. I'm going."
yeah. And then Lipton tries to cheer Malarkey up because Malarkey's kind of devastated by this too because he's close to Buck and Garnier and Toy and all those guys and Muck and Pinkala. He was close to them too. So it's like all his close friends have been obliterated. I mean, it's just I can't imagine what
Yeah.
Malarkey went through. But Malarkey Lipton gives him Hubler's Luger. Apparently, his kid brother had wanted a Luger,
Mhm.
and he hadn't gotten one. So Lipton, who had taken over Hubler's Luger, gives it to him, which is an interesting aspect of this here. So
And I like the narration over that part where
yeah,
he says, getting a guy off the line for even just an hour could just make a big difference in their mental state. And so, yeah, he was trying to get him to come off the line. At first, he's like, "No, I don't want to." But then he's like, "Oh, well, do you just go, for an hour?" The narration over that piece was really good.
Yeah. And 2104 Dogface says, per the men, the way Dyke was portrayed was spot on. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, Lipton basically does all the reporting back to Winters about everything that's going on because where the heck's Dyke? But he goes in and he's going to talk to Winters and gives his concerns. So this is you see him without his helmet on. It's a big deal for somebody to take off their helmet to have like a heart to heart talk. Um, really, he just expresses a concern about what's going to happen when we go into combat, and very concerned here. And my goodness, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Winters
Uh,
can't really do anything. I mean, he kind
yeah,
of already
no,
knows.
yeah. Yep, and then Agent Pepsi One. What surprises me is that, well, remember, souvenirs could sell them. That's extra money.
Yeah, big money then, and 2, I mean, just the experience too. Not like today where you can get pretty much anything. I mean, it would have been a big deal for these guys to get a German weapon.
Well, also think about it. This remember, there was a depression.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
depression. So you scrounged and got everything that you could get, and if you could get money to send back home or do whatever you needed to do, you did it. So that's part of what made their generation great was the way that they would save. So let's talk a little bit about Foy here. So they're getting ready for the attack on Foy, and kind of the idea here was that they're going to frontal assault on what's left of the German resistance in Foy. I Company is coming around the other way, so it's E and I Company taking this town. You had other regiments and other things scattered around the line. The book mentioned something interesting that I wish they would have had it in here, but Winters wanted to. The attack was done at like 9 a.m. and Winters wanted it to be done right at the break of day so they'd have more of the element of surprise,
Mm,
but got voted down. I would agree with Winters. I thought that would have been
right.
more effective had they done it right at first light.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, I don't know why you would wait until they're already up and, doing stuff. I mean, they're already up and out and looking. It just seems like that would make more sense.
Yeah, and I thought I had a shot of Winters talking to. No, I guess I don't. Okay,
That's
Winters.
that's right, Agent Pepsi One. The greatest generation were their grandchildren, Gen X.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. I love those comments. Anyway, so I thought I had a picture of it, but I don't. Winters basically talks to Dyke and tells him, "Hey, you got to get down there. You got to go. You got to lead your men, lead from the front. Go in and take it." So essentially, what E Company is going is they're going downhill into Foy. You got machine gun fire that are covering fire for them so that they can get in, and they've got to go kind of almost house to house to kind of clear out the German troops and drive them back and hook up with I Company who's coming from another direction. Um,
Yeah, it looked like I with part of 1 battalion was on the right side. Uh,
mhm.
2nd battalion with Lipton and Dyke were coming straight up the middle, and
Yeah,
then I think 1st battalion was coming on the left side.
yeah. Yeah, so here's where we see it, and there's the machine gun fire, and then there's the men running, and Dyke loses Foley, who's leading a squad, and he's like trying to get a hold of Foley. He pulls him back. He panics because there's a sniper. He's hidden behind, basically these haystacks, which a lot of good that those will do.
Yeah.
Um, it's just,
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
right from the beginning, right, when Winters is giving him the plan and he's telling him, like, "You gotta move fast. You gotta, this is what you
Mhm.
need to do." And Dykes
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I got it." Like, he doesn't got it. It looks like he didn't even understand, the
Mhm.
whole thing. He's just like, "Oh, yeah." And then he's yawning, which I think is like a nervous he's got some kinda nervous
Twit.
thing, like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that was weird, but yeah, then I think, the group that was on the left, I think was 1st platoon, right? They get held
Yeah.
up because there are Germans that go into that barn, and they're going to try to get him out, but they're all supposed to be coming at the same time. So he stops and he's trying to
Yeah.
get him on the phone of all things, like
Yeah.
stops right
Yeah. And
in
so
the
what's
middle of the field, like going, "Where is he? Where is he?" Instead of going forward, then it all hell breaks loose and it just turns to chaos. Like
well,
he's screaming, "Fall back!" Winters is like, "Go forward!" People that yeah, they're all getting shot by the sniper. It's just like, good lord.
and the platoon sergeants are trying to reorganize things. So the book talks about how Martin and Percani go in a flanking motion and they're trying to get the guys in the barn. And Percani is supposed to cover fire for Martin, and Percani gets hit in the ass. So he gets a shot
Yeah,
in the ass. We see that later on in the episode too,
yeah.
but that's what
Well,
happens.
they're
Um,
totally exposed, right, when they stop right in the middle of that field, by the hay bales. They're just totally exposed to the fire, to the sniper, to the machine guns. It's just a terrible, terrible spot to be in right there.
yeah,
Every
and there's
yeah, panic.
speculation that Dyke may have been wounded. Uh, 2104 Dogface says Clancy Maul says he was the only person to claim to seeing Dyke wounded was back in the line, manning MG, so he had no view of Dyke. So
Oh.
yeah, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
I couldn't tell if he was wounded or not. I mean, I guess it said that at the end of the episode, but I was like, was he? He was kind of sitting there, and that part wasn't very clear. So,
I just thought he panicked because he couldn't
yeah,
see Foley and he couldn't see the line, and
right.
he was trying to follow somebody with more experience
Hmm.
instead of leading.
Yeah, when he couldn't see Foley on the one side coming forward, that's when he just stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so the funny thing is Winters just wants to take off and he gets called, "You're battalion commander, you stay put," you know,
Yeah, it's my
and
favorite part of my favorite scene in this
uh-huh.
whole series, right, is Winter's, like, trying to go forward and Colonel Sink, like, pulling him back, and he's like, "You get back here," and he just kinda then ignores Sink and goes right to Spears and was like, "Okay, you go relieve Dyke and take the attack in."
Oh yeah, and
And Spears
Spears,
coming out, yeah, it's just great.
yeah. Yep, and 2104 Dogface mentions that there's claims that Dyke got hit, but there's no paperwork that mentions him getting hit. I don't think he got hit. I think he just got shell shocked because he
Yeah.
wasn't prepared and was trying to follow Foley in and couldn't keep up. And I just think he got disoriented and didn't know what to do. So Spears comes and they tell him about the sniper and the thing. And so Spears is like, okay, um, yeah. 2104 Dogface says that didn't happen in real life per Winters. Yeah, I don't know that Winters would have run out there, but I think he told Spears because there's a lot in the book where Spears, who's nicknamed Sparky, had earned Winters' trust as a commander. But basically, there's a sniper there, and they need to take him out in the building. And Spears comes in and he's like, "Okay, I want you guys with your mortars here to take out that building. You guys move up in here." And then he's going to go connect with I Company. And oh my goodness, Heather, do you want to talk about the run? Since
Yeah,
it's one of your favorite things too.
I loved it when he comes running out and there's the explosion there and it looks like he comes running out through the smoke. I mean, it's like the real life Captain America, right? Coming to the rescue here. And then yeah, the fact that he just knows immediately what to do, starts giving orders, gets things organized. Yeah, and then he needs to hook up with I Company, who's now there's some Germans. It's hard to tell if the Germans are facing both or if they're kind of cut off and the Germans are in
Uh,
between them. I mean, but he's either running through or across a line of German soldiers and tanks and guns. And I've read that it was even longer than kind of what we see in the show, the distance that he ran, which is just incredible. Like, to run all the way across so you can give a message to another group and then come all the way back and start leading the attack forward again all the time while that you're being fired on. And I did think it was kind of funny, right, that the Germans like don't know they don't shoot right away because they're so surprised to see someone running across their line that they don't even start firing until after he's getting more toward the other side. But the run back, I mean, my God, it's I don't know. He was, like, brave, I mean, kind of bordering on crazy, but that was just unbelievable.
Yeah. And 2104 Dogface says so he had to meet I Company as they were firing into Easy Company. Yeah, they were coming from different angles and
Yeah, so they
eventually
wouldn't get fired
yeah,
on.
been fired
Yeah.
on. So but yeah, for him to run just right through the German ranks and you see the scene, you're like the German troopers are like, who the what the but
Yeah, a miracle that he got through there and didn't get hit.
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It was crazy. And so you see them kind of take the town and they're kind of regrouping in the town, and all of a sudden there's another sniper. And this part is interesting. So they're in there, and you do see, I think you do see Prakani getting taken off, getting shot in the butt at that point, and then they got them lined up, and they've got cameras, and they're taking a picture and singing, and then all of a sudden the sniper hits somebody, and you have Lipton and Shifty going after the sniper. Now, it wasn't Lipton, it was somebody else, but they frame it because the whole episode's about from Lipton's point of view. And that was an interesting scene where Lipton's like, okay, Shifty, don't miss. And he's trying to draw the fire of the sniper as he runs across, and then Shifty shoots him. Now, Shifty was one of the better shots in there in the company. And so I read that you give Shifty a rifle. If you're a sniper, you want to watch out because he's a good shot. And he
Yeah.
goes and he shoots him and kills the sniper, which I think was pretty cool.
But
Uh,
they're all out there celebrating and filming, and then they
yeah.
get some of them get hit by the sniper, like, I would never feel safe in a town that you've just
Mhm,
taken. There's Germans scattered around still, you don't know
mhm.
if you've got everyone, like, there's no way I would just stand out in the open like that. I would be so paranoid of, just being undercover all the time, even after you've taken the town. That was one other thing that I thought was super careless, but I guess, just not thinking about that. And yeah, to run out like that, to just be bait for a sniper so that the sniper's going to focus on you so that someone else can get the sniper. I mean, that's incredibly brave too. I was blown away by that as well.
Yeah, 2104 Dogface, Shifty's version of it was fun to hear. We're being heckled by
Heckle.
the others.
Well, Shifty seems very humble because earlier in the episode, I remember he was saying, "Oh no, my dad was a great shot. I'm not really that good of a shot." Like,
Yeah,
kind of talking himself down a little bit.
yeah. He always seemed like he was a very humble, good guy, and we'll see him later on in one of the episodes trying to hunt a deer for the guys. But um, I'd love to hear Shifty talk about that. It'd be interesting to go back and see if there's any recordings of him talking about it from first personal experience. But the book just mentions that he's a crack shot and got the sniper. But and then we come to towards the end of the episode in the church, which I thought was really interesting. And here's Spears' run,
The
you know,
run,
should have
yeah,
lied, yeah. And then the guys running in, and then here's Shifty with the they'll miss.
yeah. So FKHC 2005 says, "No, you wouldn't be standing out in the open. If you were smart, you'd be trying to clear each building." And
Yes,
maybe
exactly.
they thought that they were clear. Uh, I just don't know. I mean, I know they're trying to film stuff for, I don't know, to send back home. So I don't know if it was premature or if they just thought the town had been cleared, but that was crazy.
Yeah. There was a YouTube video with a World War II sniper in his 90s that was invited to Fort Benning to visit U.S. Army snipers. Oh, wow.
Able to hit 1,000-meter
Wow.
targets, given also an original World War II sniper rifle. Wow.
That's awesome. 2104 Dogface. Shifty was laid back, but could roast some of the guys. Oh, yeah, I
Nice.
bet. I bet. But yeah, it's interesting. And I love the ending in the church with the choir singing. And then basically Lipton's kind of narrating the guys that they've lost. And I love how they did that cinematically. Was just beautiful where they show the guys and they kind of disappear.
Yeah, with the
Um,
church choir, it's such a beautiful scene, and they're all just sitting there thinking, resting, and yeah, seeing them kind of fade away, the ones who've been killed or injured.
mhm.
It was an incredible way to do it because if they just listed the names, like a lot of these guys, they hadn't focused on in the show, and you don't, so you might not. I'm like a lot of these names. If they would have just read the names, I wouldn't really have recognized them. But you recognize their faces just from seeing them in all these different shots, and yeah, it was a really nice way to do that and show them all kind of fading out there. Um, just another really emotional part of the episode.
Oh yeah, and it's just that part kind of gets me in this episode, but also I love this part where Spears is given full command of it, and then we get Lipton as the battlefield commander, and I love what he says to him. He says, as basically, they've had a guy all along that's been with them that's been leading them, and you don't even know who I'm talking about. It's you,
Yeah, I
which
love that part, and it just I know, I always get kinda choked up when when he's saying that part because it is, I mean, yeah, Lipton was always kinda so humble, and he's very serious, down to earth, and, just seems like such a great guy too, and
oh
yeah,
yeah.
I loved all that part. The scene between those 2 is really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of
Um,
my favorite scenes in the entire series, just to learn about it. And they also explain Spears kind of explains himself a little bit. That if they think he's the biggest badass, that they that they'll obey him, or
right.
they'll do him. And basically Lipton's like, no, they're just glad to have a competent commander. They don't care,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. They don't
And
care about the stories.
yeah, and I think that's a good thing because I think it really helps bring cohesion to the company, but also I think that gives some relief to Spears where he doesn't have to worry about the stories because he knows the men respect him with
Yep.
Lipton telling him that. So
Absolutely. Oh, this
um,
is fun. So SP4H says some people have innate natural talent, others are able to learn the skill. Talking about being a sniper,
oh gosh,
and
yeah.
a lot wouldn't be able to hit the broadside of a barn. That would be me. Like I can't hit the broadside of a barn from a long distance. I need to like be very close to the target. I don't know. It's like I don't know. I just suck at long distance target shooting.
It's all about your aim and it's all about your eyes. So
Well, I must have bad eyes then because, I do aim.
so
I guess I don't have the talent and I haven't worked on the skill.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also probably stuff to more to it as leading targets and stuff like that. I mean, I've hunted and I've gotten you gotta have. Unfortunately, I hunted with a rifle that wasn't set properly,
Oh,
so
no, don't tell me about it. Don't tell me about
yeah.
it. I don't wanna hear about that.
So, but anyway, it's interesting. I do respect snipers. I love Saving Private Ryan, the Barry Peppers character who's the sniper in that. I really appreciate that. And then since we're off on a small tangent about snipers, have you seen Enemy at the Gates?
Yes, love that.
Another
That's
good sniper movie.
yeah,
So,
great movie.
so,
Really great movie.
so there information on here. The uh, 551st took the highest casualties, 85% for all airborne units in the Bulge. Went in with 643 men, came out with 14 officers and 96 men. Oh my gosh, that's just
Yeah,
crazy.
85%.
Oh
Holy
my
cow.
gosh.
That is just mm.
SPR4H is offering to give you some shooting instructions there, Heather.
No, I yeah, well, maybe I haven't had the proper instruction 'cause,
Yeah,
I do have a friend in the military who's tried to give me some, instruction, and,
yeah.
I don't know, it didn't totally take maybe he's not a good teacher. We'll just say that.
That could be it. That could be it too. Yeah,
Oh god.
yeah. You can learn how
Yeah.
to shoot and then go get some venison.
No, I would never shoot at an animal. I only shoot at targets with
Yeah,
human pictures on them. I don't
yeah,
shoot animals. Right,
yeah.
that's it.
So. All right, but anyway, we're at the end of this episode. So overall, honestly, folks, this one's my favorite episode of the series. And I guess it's just because there's so much that goes on in this episode. This episode, I think, also takes you on an emotional roller coaster, and I think it has a satisfactory ending. But I'm very sad with the guys that we lose in this episode. Uh, but I think it's probably the best one because it's very a compilation of the whole series. Is really this episode in a way to me. So
Yeah.
that's what I think makes it great. I don't know, Heather, would you rank this as one of your favorites too, or?
Yeah, I agree. This one's up there with one of my favorites. I like I think it's the second episode where they first jump into Normandy.
Mhm.
And this one I think is probably another favorite. Those two are probably my favorites. It's just so well done. We really have bonded with these guys like Joe and Bill and at this point, so losing them really hits hard at this point
Oh,
because
yeah,
we
absolutely.
really feel and you can see, I mean, the actors have done such a great job, like, you can see on the faces of Compton and Malarkey, like, the toll that it's taken on them and Lipton too, right? They look so much different, than they did in the first, second episode. They've really done a great job portraying that as how this is worn on them, this constant combat, and yeah, the action is great. The taking of Foy is like a really well filmed battle. Just everything about this episode is just excellent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, definitely. All right, folks. Well, we've reached the end. Just so you know, next week we've got our show on the '70s. So coming up, we're got the panel and we're doing 1970. So that'll be next week at around 6:30 Central. And then because the week after that's Easter Sunday, we're not going to do a show on Easter Sunday, but the week after that we'll pick up with episode 8, Band of Brothers. Oh, we've got some Star Wars references in there
There's
too.
some people trashing stormtroopers in the chat. Hey, I'm looking at you.
So yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, we got
sorry to
that.
interrupt.
Yeah, no worries. But anything else you want to plug, Heather L? I know you're not a YouTuber, but you're a wrench for several.
Well, they only actively a wrench on Doomcock's channel. I think I'm an honorary wrench on a few others, but I can't take credit for doing any work there. So, yeah, I'll just say come to PCB on Wednesday night on Overlord DVD's channel, and come to Friday Night Frolics. It's a blast. Hang out in the chat and have fun.
Yeah, and then Pop Culture Breakdown this Wednesday, we're covering a Val Kilmer movie, which many people haven't seen. This is my first time seeing it. It's called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with him and Robert Downey Jr. So, sure we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff going on with Disney, a whole bunch of other things. 2104 Dogface mentions on his promotion to Sergeant in E Company 506 was an epic shit show during the Bulge reenactment with Winters and Bill. Uh,
Oh
Oh, I
wow!
bet. He go to my community page, 2104 Dogface expands on that a little bit. But wow, I mean, yeah, tell us anything more. If you want to share any more of that story, 2104 Dogface, let us know before we jump off here. But I bet, I mean, I can't imagine hanging out with those guys and having those guys congratulate you and salute you for making the rank of sergeant. And thank you again for your service. Thank you to everybody who served in the military in our chat. We certainly appreciate that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, folks. And folks, what do you want to see coming up as we end Band of Brothers? Are you wanting us to go in the Pacific? Are you wanting us to do Masters of the Air? Let us know. We'll find ways to make those shows happen for you. Or do you want us to go into war movies? Are there war movies you want us
Right.
to cover on here? There are several good war movies, like Battle of the Bulge is a good war movie. You've got several other ones that really get into fighting if it's World War II that you want to see, or is there no set of shows that you guys want to see? So, kind of fun stuff. Oh gosh, uh, 2104 Swirly stuck in an army toilet. Oh wow.
No. Ugh.
Oh
I think
boy.
they suck, they kinda just suck anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Jedi Master says Pacific.
Yeah.
Patton. Yeah, well, leave the comments below in the comment section.
Yeah. In the comment
To
section, or when we get done with the video, pop in some comments on that. That
Yeah.
also helps our video
Yes.
get shown. And I need the hours to get monetized, because once I get monetized, we're gonna do some really cool stuff. I've already got some plans, so folks, get ready for that. But yeah, Kelly's Heroes is another good movie. Love that. But yeah, throw those comments in there and let us know. We'd love to cover those shows, and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Just
It'd
your
be good to
audience is
comment
probably,
comment below the video right after the
yeah,
stream ends.
yeah.
That way you'll have it. You'll have them down there, and you can kinda save it
Oh
easily.
wow, I've never heard of this. Generation War is considered the German side of Band of
Wow.
Brothers.
Is it a German show?
Yeah, is it? Tell us more about that 2104 Dogface. I'd love to see that, and yeah, hear more about it, because that'd be interesting to get the German aspect of this. That'd be pretty interesting. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, definitely leave us comments on what you like to hear or see, folks. And just so you guys know, in May, the end of May, the first part of June, I'm actually going over there and I'm taking a Band of Brothers tour. And I intend to wrap this up after we've done episode 10 with another episode where we'll show some of the pictures of the sites that I see when I'm over there. So it should be pretty cool. Should be interesting. So, um, but without further ado, we're going to end this stream. Thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with anybody who else is interested in Band of Brothers, and leave comments. We'd love to hear more about your experience in the military, other thoughts on Band of Brothers, or any other shows that you want us to cover. Leave those either in the comments, or especially come back and make those comments in the video. So thank you guys so much.
Yes.
Let's see,
Good
2104
night.
Dog just had
Thanks
one
so
last
much.
thing. Yes, the German side covers 5 friends all having different experiences in the war.
Interesting.
Oh, may have to find that and check it out. So cool. But anyway, good
Thank
to
you
see you
guys.
guys.
Have a good
Thank you so
evening.
much. Take
See you
care. Have
next
a great
time.
day. See ya.